Well, welcome everyone. We appreciate you attending our afternoon webinar today. It's noon here in Utah from wherever you're joining us from. It's also the week of commencement here on campus, so it's a pretty exciting time of the year. Just a few things before we dive into our grad school presentation. Today we're going to talk about unlocking graduate school, what that looks like, what that process is, what opportunities are available to our students here at the University of Utah. My name is Michelle Thompson. I oversee the Office of Student Experience, and we put on these webinars once a month. Today's webinar will be recorded, and then we will edit and closed caption it and then post it in the archives on our website, which is belong.utah.edu. And you can see the entire suite of webinars on there if that's something you're interested in exploring. Lots of great topics to see. We've got two presenters with us today. We have Matthew Plooster, who's an Assistant Dean of Graduate Fellowships, Awards, and Benefits in the grad school. And then we have Rodney Cohen, who's also an Assistant Dean of Strategic Partnerships and Engagement. As we go along, if there are additional, we did have some questions submitted beforehand. If there are additional questions that come up during the presentation, please feel free to put those in the Q&A chat, and we'll moderate those as they come in and get them answered for you. But I think we are ready to get started. And Rodney or Matthew, do you want to do a quick introduction and then jump into your slides?
Sure. Thank you, Michelle, and I want to thank you for the opportunity, and want to thank my colleague, Dr. Plooster, for joining us in this experience as well. We have a few slides we want to share with you all, and I'm going to kind of open up and give an overview and welcome you to the graduate school and to the University of Utah. And then Matthew, who has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to finance and financial support and funding and fellowships and that sort of thing. He will wrap up, and then we will circle back and answer any questions that you all may have. But before I start, I just want to let you know that not only are we presenting about graduate school, graduate study, and more specifically the graduate school here at the University of Utah, but Matthew and myself are also products of various graduate schools as well. So we're not only speaking as a professional in this space, but also somebody who has gone through the experience as well. So with that being said, I'd like to get us going. And again, welcome to the University of Utah and the graduate school. And we're also the Office of not only graduate education, but postdoctoral affairs. What does that mean? After many individuals who go on to, let's say, get a PhD, which stands for a doctorate in philosophy, which is a terminal degree, a research degree, many individuals go on and do what you call a postdoc, where they get additional experience in research and in their particular field. So we, as a graduate school, are here to support those endeavors along with the graduate education. Now, this is a special time for the University of Utah. We're experiencing 175 years in existence. We're 175 and still climbing, as we like to say. So this is a special time to be at an institution that's been around since 1850. Right now, I have a short video I'd like to share with you all.
The University of Utah is an excellent place to get a graduate education.
Everyone here that I've worked with, from ENTs to professors to undergrads, has been really just genuinely nice and something probably unique to Utah in terms of just how nice everyone is.
There's a great community of graduate students. If you don't know something, there's somebody around that does.
There's just so many resources on campus that the grad school provides, but also research opportunities that are prevalent.
In order to do something creatively valuable, you need to have time to think every day. I wrote a proposal and I submitted it to the Graduate Research Committee, and they gave me a fellowship that I could actually start working on my dissertation without thinking about financial burdens.
The University of Utah has really been able to change the paradigm of graduate education in order to embrace the growing proportion of PhDs that are entering into industrial careers.
Because I did both the clinical doctorate and the research doctorate, it's opened up a lot of opportunities for me on the job market. I could go and work as a clinician, I could go and work as an academic researcher, tenure line, and I can also work industry.
Without a graduate research fellowship, doing this experimental composition was impossible.
I even took up rock climbing, which I never thought I would do. So
you can really come here and you can do great things, and the graduate school is there to help you along every step of the way.
Great. So what I'd like to do now is talk about graduate school versus college. As you all know, before you attend graduate school, you need to do a 4-year or 5-year undergraduate, depending on your major, collegiate experience. And that would be in the form of a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor in Engineering, if you're in that field, as an example. And there are a few things that are very similar to the college experience, but there are a lot of things, as you saw in that video, that are very different. As you might have heard in that video, you become a part of a unique and small community. Yes, you're a part of the broader University of Utah experience, but when you're in your particular cohort, you become a part of a small community. And with that being said, you will enroll in one or two areas in a graduate program. One will either be as a master's student, which is that degree level, which is immediately senior to the bachelor's degree. And then after that is a PhD, which I mentioned before, is a doctor of philosophy. So most times when you think about the PhD student, many students obtain their master's degree first and go right into a PhD. But you also should know that there are instances in some cases where a student can enter directly into a PhD program after their undergraduate studies at the particular institution that they're coming from. Now, one of the things, again, that I talked about is, as you notice here in this schematic, which I like, there are some shared experiences between the college experience and the graduate experience. However, particularly if you're coming from a large state school, and even if you're coming from smaller schools, some of your classes were of larger sizes. But when you get to the graduate school, they're very small. They're personal, they're subject intensive. They're, in many cases, what we call cohort-based. So many of the individuals that you will be coming in contact with, not only from a faculty perspective, but also from a peer perspective, will all be playing, if you will, in the same sandbox. You'll be able to share ideas, exchange research ideas, be able to challenge one another, and really hone each other's skill as a result of that. So that tight-knit community is very important. And I'm sure Matthew will get into this, but one of the things I want to point out is because you are part of a very intimate community, if you will, that's why it's very important that you really do your homework and your research when it comes to attending a graduate program. So for example, if you're going into the sciences, unlike undergrad where you're learning kind of the basics of science and you're in a class, that may be large or whatnot, when you enter into graduate school, as an example, in sciences, not only are you coming to study coursework, but you're also entering, as an example, a lab. So there's a culture within that lab. Will that culture benefit you? Will you add to that culture? Is that professor doing some research that you are interested in? As you also noticed in the video, you saw a range from the sciences to music. And within that individual was able to obtain a fellowship to further their research and to further their craft as well. Let me talk a little bit about the University of Utah. One of our mantras is we're building a community of scholars and leaders. As you notice in the video, that graduate school is just not all study, although you're going to be doing a lot of that. You do need a life outside of the classroom, the laboratory, the music recital room. So we want to not only build scholars to contribute to the academy and become public scholars, but also want leaders. So with that being said, currently the University of Utah, we enroll just south of 10,000 students in graduate programs, which is substantial, and a very robust, diverse group of students representing a number of disciplines and areas across the board. As you can see, we offer 240 graduate degrees. So there's something here for everyone. And they're broken up into three basic areas, what we call the academic programs, where you will receive an academic degree like a Master of Arts, Science, and the PhD that I mentioned. We also have professional programs as well, where you can do graduate advanced studies, and we have a number of graduate certificates to help you to persist and move forward in your chosen profession. Now, I just wanted to put this up because, as we begin to examine higher education today, and there are a lot of options, there are concerns around financing and funding. This is a schematic from USHE, which is Utah System of Higher Education. And it really kind of outlines and illustrates what the return on an investment for graduate education will be. And as you can see that, oftentimes education is not a sprint, it is a marathon. So there is a return on the investment. And I just wanted to kind of share these hard numbers with you that was reported by USHE. So next, I'd like to bring on my colleague, Matthew Plooster. Again, he is well-versed in this particular space, and he's going to provide some valuable information for you all as it relates to funding and finance education, because I know that that is on the mind of many of the students and many of the parents. So without further ado, Matthew, and just let me know, and I'll switch the slides when you'd like me to. Thanks.
Thank you, Rodney. Before we dive into the different types of funding available to graduate students, I do want to accentuate the importance of asking questions along the process. Oftentimes, we're a little bashful when it comes to the programs that we're interested in, and we have a burning question, but we're not sure who the right person is to ask or whatnot. Ask every question that you have. We are here to help you answer them, and if we can't answer them, we direct you to the next person. Every campus that you visit is full of people who are ready and willing to help you find answers to your questions and help you find the best fit for you to be successful. So as Rodney mentioned, there's a lot of diversity to the programs that we have. We've got academic programs like PhDs. We have Masters of Arts, Masters of Science. We have what we call a professional degree, like a Juris Doctorate, to be an attorney, a medical doctor, doctor of dentistry, among other opportunities there. And so all these have different types of funding models around them. And so I'm going to speak specifically here to the U as well as kind of broadly, because there's definitely no one size fits all, but I want to give you as best background as we can. So one of the most common areas of funding for graduate students is assistantships. And there is a lot of reason for this. It's not just to help provide you with a way to get your tuition covered and earn a paycheck, but also to help you learn the skills that are important both for your degree and for you on the job market after completing your graduate education. First is teaching assistantships. This supports the teaching activity of a program and institution at large. And this can take a lot of different forms. There's being the instructor of record, which means you're the one who's teaching the class. You may be developing the syllabus. You might be using a standard department syllabus for a particular class. You may be leading breakout labs. So for example, a biology course may have a large lecture class, but then graduate students may be leading the individual breakout labs. You may be assisting a professor in instruction, helping them with whatever needs they have, facilitating office hours, tutoring, grading, and managing online learning communities like Canvas. Then there's research assistantships, which support the research mission of an institution and largely an individual faculty member's lab, or PI, principal investigator, as we call faculty who do research. This includes data entry, data analysis, writing and reviewing articles, mentoring undergraduates in the lab. Teaching happens just as much in a lab as it does in any other setting out there, both you being taught and learning from those experiences, as well as you being part of the education of others, such as other graduate students and undergraduates. I do want to point out here that some programs do have requirements. Some, especially PhDs, you are likely to have a teaching requirement or a research lab service requirement, because that is seen as integral to your development as a scholar and to your career trajectory. Teaching happens across the gamut. Research does tend to be a little bit more STEM heavy in the sciences and engineering and such, but also still occurs in social work, in history, in communication, in all these other areas outside of STEM as well. So it's important to ask, if you have an interest in teaching or research, what opportunities are available to you? And assistantships usually come with tuition coverage and health insurance, but not always. That's another thing you want to always ask about. What are the benefits that come with your assistantship? Okay, slide. Then there's scholarships and fellowships, which are highly attractive because, unlike an assistantship where you have to work several hours a week to earn that paycheck, a fellowship and a scholarship is money that is given to you without a work requirement. So we all want scholarships and we all want fellowships. Let's start with scholarships, because there's a difference between the two here. Scholarships are available in academic programs and colleges, as well as various support units. For example, the student union here at the University of Utah has their own scholarship program. They're not an academic unit, but that is an area that does help support students. These awards can range quite a bit, from $500 all the way up to $10,000 a year or more. Scholarships can usually be stacked with other scholarships and other awards with an assistantship. Then we have fellowships, which are what we would call a full-time award. This is a scholarship that is meant to replace an assistantship. So this is generally $20,000 a year or higher, offered in academic programs and colleges, as well as from national funding agencies. So for example, the National Science Foundation has a very robust graduate research fellowship program that rising seniors can apply for, as well as incoming graduate students. So if you are going into a STEM area, which includes learning research and how science is taught, psychology, sociology, the social sciences are a big part of the NSF's mission as well. These are opportunities that you can apply for that do provide you with a substantial amount of support throughout your program. Scholarships do tend to be more for professional programs, such as an MBA or Doctor of Physical Therapy or Master of Social Work, whereas fellowships, the full-time stipend, tend to be more research-based degrees, such as Master of Arts, Master of Science, Doctor of Philosophy, and PhD. Slide. Then there is federal and private loans. Loans have a really poor reputation, unfortunately, but they can be very useful and an important tool in your toolbox at times. First, we have federal loans. This is where you complete the FAFSA every year, and that will determine your eligibility for federal loans. When you have federal loans, there are definitely some benefits to this as opposed to other options here. You may qualify for public service loan forgiveness if you work for a nonprofit, educational institution, or a government organization, and income-based repayment plans. So instead of a large monthly sum, it could be smaller or adjusted based on your income while you're in repayments. Generally, there is a lower interest rate than commercial banks, and you can also defer repayment of your graduate loans until you leave the institution. Really importantly, if you have undergraduate loans as well, you can defer repayment on those until you finish your graduate degree as well. That is a really important thing to note there. Then there's private loans, and there is quite a gamut of these. Here at the University of Utah, we work with over 100 different private loan funding agencies. These range in eligibility, amount, interest rate, and repayment schedule. And some private loans, unlike federal loans, are also open to international students. The financial aid office here at the University of Utah, as well as any institution you may be looking at, will be able to provide you with more timely information about FAFSA, how to file, and any help that you need filing that, as well as information about private loans that you may be seeking. Okay, slide. And then health insurance coverage. This is a really important component here that we don't always think about when we go to graduate school. We think about, I need a scholarship, I need my tuition waived, I need a job on campus, but health insurance isn't always at the front of our mind. Here at the University of Utah, our students on assistantships participate in a subsidized health insurance plan. This is medical, pharmacy, dental, and vision, where we cover the annual premium. Usually included in assistantship and fellowship packages, but you always want to ask just in case. As mentioned, the university covers the annual premium, and you would only be responsible for copays and any out-of-pocket requirement. We have here on campus at the University of Utah, the Student Health Center, which is just right up the hill on Foothill. And it accepts our health insurance plan completely. And then we also refer students into our world-class healthcare of the University of Utah Hospital and clinics. Students who are not subsidized via an assistantship or fellowship, you can also purchase coverage, which is oftentimes much more affordable than going on the other healthcare coverage opportunities that you have out there on the exchange and whatnot. And as well, our plan does allow you to enroll your dependents. So if you have a partner who needs coverage or children who need coverage, you can include them in the medical plan, which includes pharmacy, as well as the other plan, which is dental and vision. Okay, slide. And then lastly, I do want to cover the educationally enriching experiences that are included oftentimes with your funding package, whether it's a fellowship or an assistantship, as well as open to students in any graduate program, regardless of your funding model. So assistantships provide hands-on skill development that complement your graduate program while providing a competitive edge for the job market. So for example, here, if you are, let's say, a PhD or a Master of Science in history, you're going to walk away with a great knowledge of history, a complex understanding of historical problems and how to solve them and such, very discipline specific. But also the learning outcome of those programs is how to teach history. And so that is why these hands-on assistantships are so valuable, because that is part of the value of the degree, is these skills. Ongoing professional development programs and career coaching available to all graduate students, not just those who are funded in a particular way. Teaching and pedagogy learning opportunities are available through the Center for Teaching Excellence. Starting next week, for example, we have our annual summer teaching assistant symposium, which is for any student who is teaching or would like to teach. So you can learn more about specific areas about classroom management, syllabus, pedagogy, learning outcomes, and whatnot. We have a very robust division of research. We are an R1 institution, which means that we perform the highest level of research in an academic institution. And part of that is providing students with skills and opportunities to learn. We have a very active RED program, which is research education, here at the University of Utah that is key for anyone working in a lab, as well as anyone who simply wants to learn more about research. This can include grant writing, how institutional review works for conducting experiments, among other opportunities. There are local and regional internships, clinical opportunities. Some of your programs may require clinical work, such as a clinical rotation if you're in a medical program, a practicum, and if you're like a counseling or social work program, as well as optional internships that can be very valuable and provide you with a doorway into certain sectors. And then, of course, there are certificate and dual degree options here at the University of Utah. So, for example, if you are wanting to practice law, but practice law focusing on urban planning and all the different legal issues around that. We have a dual degree program where you can earn a Juris Doctorate, a law degree, and a Master's of City and Metropolitan Planning concurrently. There's a number of different dual opportunities such as that.
So right now, what I would like for you to do, and I guess Michelle and her team will help us. We're at a question and answer period, but also too, if you notice the QR code, if you could scan that and capture that information, that will take you directly to the graduate school and give you all of the information that we went over and more, and really highlight all of the individual programs and offerings that we have through the graduate school.
Great, Matthew and Rodney, thank you so much. We have a number of questions that have come in through the chat. I'm going to kind of break these up. A lot of these questions focus on admission and application into the grad school programs. So I want to come at this from two different angles. One being, if you're already a currently enrolled University of Utah student, what does application admission look like from that perspective? And what are your recommendations for students to do at what point along the way? And then also let's take that from application if you're not a University of Utah student and you're coming from a different institution.
Happy to jump in here with this. There's a lot of components there. So Michelle, if I miss one of the sub questions, please jump in. I'm going to start with when to start and where to start. So as undergraduates, you are engaging with a lot of different courses, a lot of different campus activities as you learn about what you want to study and the path that you want to go and how you want to utilize that undergraduate degree. And if you are on campus and you have not met with our Career Center, highly recommend that you meet with this fantastic team that can help you learn more about the careers that are a good match for you, as well as helping you find those jobs and provide services for that. So some of the professions that you may be looking at as an undergraduate will require a graduate degree. And these are largely those that lead to some sort of licensure. So CPA, you need a MAC degree. Social work, you need an MSW. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, those are both doctoral level degrees. So those are where graduate school is not optional if you want to move in that career path. But then there are others where graduate school can help you learn specialization or help you grow in a leadership capacity. So for example, business is a great example of this here. Business administration degree, MBA, where you are likely going to go out into a business career, work for a few years, and then come back. You bring that work knowledge with you and that experience that helps enrich the classroom experience in an MBA program. But then there are other degrees like in business, such as information science or marketing, where that may be more of a move directly from undergraduate forward. The important thing here with this, with the where to start, is when you start thinking about these things, immediately start asking questions. There's no right or wrong time to begin that conversation. And that can begin with us in the graduate school, your undergraduate academic advisor, faculty in your classes, the Career Center, really anyone on campus that you are intersecting with can either provide you with advice or connect you with the right person. So if you're a current student here at the University of Utah, or an external student. So applying for graduate school has really two components to this. As an undergraduate, you apply as an undergraduate. You come in and you kind of figure out your path. Even if you come in with a major in mind, you engage with gen eds, that may send you into a different major. Graduate school is a little bit different. You have to apply to the university as a graduate student, but then you apply to a specific program as well. So our application system, Slate, has that all really truncated, so it looks like one seamless application, but you do receive, when you're accepted, two separate acceptance letters. If you're here at the University of Utah, we have your academic record on hand already. If you are external to the University of Utah, you're going to have your transcripts sent to us. And in some cases, those transcripts may need to be evaluated, uh, examining the course articulation and such, to see if you meet the proper requirements, as your classes might not match what are here at the University of Utah. And Michelle, did I miss one of the sub questions there?
No, that was great, Matthew. Just a few more. If you are a current University of Utah student, what I would say, like, what's the strategy around working with current faculty and staff? Obviously, the grad school has resources, but if a student is really engaged, say in engineering classes or chemistry, is it a good strategy to be working with some of those faculty on that graduate school application process? And what would that look like?
Absolutely. When you apply to graduate school here or elsewhere, you're going to need letters of recommendation where faculty members can speak to your scholarly ability and potential. And one thing that really sets you aside, specifically in the areas that you mentioned, these more hard sciences, STEM heavy areas, is going to be any research experience that you do have on top of being a good student, getting good grades and such. Those letters of recommendation are essential and highly valuable. So if you have a faculty member that you are working with, have those conversations with them, because they're going to want to ask you questions as well about your path to graduate school. I also want to take a quick moment to highlight, when it comes to that, on that same vein, we have a very robust undergraduate research office here at the University of Utah, where undergrads, if you are continuing as an undergrad, you can engage in that direct research to get experience working with a faculty researcher, if you already do not have that opportunity.
Let me add something real quickly to that. If you notice, Matthew mentioned faculty. One of the key things is at graduate school, it really is about how are you going to think, how are you going to produce. So obviously you need to make good grades, but while you're in undergrad, as Matthew mentioned with the undergraduate research opportunity, anytime you can do any kind of research, either if it's with some of your colleagues, with other professors, and oftentimes you may be doing joint research with students and faculty from one or two other institutions. Please try and do that, and ask your faculty, your professors, are there any opportunities where I can join on a poster presentation, on a paper presentation? And with that being said, if there's an opportunity to go to a conference somewhere and present, and also too, if you're a student at the University of Utah, we have poster presentation opportunities on campus. And that goes a long way when you're talking about applying to graduate school, because to be real clear, a lot of folks who are applying to grad schools have good grades, have great grades, but what's going to separate you from others is some of that rigorous research and papers that you've done.
And when it comes to these different pieces, especially as Rodney outlined here, when you apply for aid as well, so competitive national fellowships, for example, are looking at each and every one of those things that he has just mentioned there. So it can help you not only get into graduate school and get funded in graduate school, but get the best funding while you're in grad school.
We have a question specifically about grad school and humanities. Where can potential applicants find information on your website about specific degree programs?
Okay, we do have a specific degree program webpage, which I will pull that down, put that into the chat, that not only lists all the different programs, but will list the contact. And there's going to be two contacts.
Perfect.
There's going to be a director of graduate studies who is a faculty member, and then there's going to be a graduate coordinator who's a staff member. Both are there and able and willing to take your questions.
Perfect. Love that. And if you'd like to, Matthew, you can put that in the chat or in the Q&A, either way, and hopefully all of our attendees can see that.
Yeah, and also too, Michelle, they can also scan the QR code And like I said, with the 240 degrees there, as Matthew said, there's going to be a contact and a link to each one of those degrees.
Perfect. That's great. I love that people can kind of dive down deeper. Is graduate school application, I know when students are applying as undergraduates for their first year on campus, there's admissions counselors. Do you offer something similar?
So admissions counselors as like a point of contact to speak with.
Yes.
This is going to be very much so dependent on the program that you go into. Largely speaking, while at the undergraduate level, it's the Office of Admissions, the admissions counselors, and the admissions leadership that review the applications. In graduate school, it's going to be faculty. It's going to be a committee of instructors in your area that form that committee. That said, it's those people on the contact list that we just put in there, the graduate coordinator and the director of grad studies, that are, so to say, your admissions counselor. They are there to help you understand the program, understand the application, and answer any questions that you do have. So they're there to help support you through that process.
And let me add to that as well. As Matthew mentioned, as far as the faculty, one of the things I found helpful when going to graduate school is that professors who you take class from, the professorial community is a small community in and of itself. So even if you decide, hey, look, I don't want to go to the University of Utah for my master's or PhD, I want to go somewhere else, your professors within their profession know faculty at other institutions, and they can reach out on your behalf to labs or programs they think may be a good fit for you to go and investigate. So definitely, as Matthew say, unlike undergrad where you have a core, if you will, of admissions counselors, your admissions counselors, if you will, are your faculty who really not only have a relationship with faculty around the country, but also have their finger on the pulse in terms of the trajectory of the profession.
Thank you for bringing that up, Rodney. We were actually just talking about this the other day, where when you have these conversations, you want to be you want to share what's kind of leading you down this path, because there may be other degree opportunities that we're not thinking of. So, for example, we have a very robust law school here with a very highly respected, highly ranked JD, Juris Doctorate, which allows you to sit for the bar and practice as an attorney. You may want to work in a legal profession, but if you have no desire to be a litigator and do certain areas of practice, we have 2 master's degrees that are going to be a lot quicker, a lot less expensive, and open doors for you in the legal field, Master of Laws and a Master of Legal Studies, that provide specializations in areas like healthcare law and natural resource and environmental law that may allow you to do what it is you're wanting to do without having to go to law school, which costs more money and takes more time.
And to quickly add to that, Matthew, I'm glad you brought that up. And individuals who've gone through that find their professional experience to be very rewarding as well. So this is not, for lack of a better word, a sidestep, but you know, it may fit your personality, your lifestyle, and that sort of thing. But you're making a very, very significant contribution to the field.
Lots of admissions questions. Guys are doing a great job fielding these for us. Thank you. It sounds like there's a lot of excitement out there. Another one came in. What is the admissions kind of timeline? Is it similar to undergraduate, where you kind of apply in the fall and you find out early winter? Is it rolling admissions? What does that timeline look like?
That's a really good question that there's no solid answer for. But there are some trends that we can talk about here. So there's no one deadline for the University of Utah, or really any graduate institution that you go to. What you're going to see is different trends in different areas. So the hard sciences do tend to have winter, so November, sometimes December deadlines. Humanities and the arts, you might see that go to January, February. But things are trending in general earlier. An interesting trend that we have been seeing is Masters of Social Work across the country, those are starting to have deadlines in October. So you're applying at the very beginning of your senior year if you're going directly from your bachelor's into an MSW program. Second to that is you want to see how many admissions cycles a year your program does have. Most PhDs, MA and MS, is going to be once a year. Maybe a little bit more flexibility on the MA and MS. Professional degrees, there's going to be some variability there. MD, JD, physical therapy, occupational therapy, physician assistant and such, those largely are going to be once a year. Doctor of nurse practice, on the other hand, they have 3 admission cycles a year. So it really does depend on your discipline in some ways, and then the specific program that you are looking at. And this is how the University of Utah does this. If you're looking at programs outside of the U, they could be doing things on a very different schedule as well.
Let me just add to that real quickly to what Matthew say. Many of your professional programs, for example, and some of your others as well, they're on a cohort model. So you can't, unlike undergrad, say, okay, I'm a transfer in or come in second semester. You have to come in with that particular cohort and persist with that cohort. So be aware of that and conscious of that as well.
Great. Awesome answers, you guys. I think the last question I see is kind of any last tips, tricks, strategy ideas for students who are just starting this journey. What would you tell them that you can't find on the website and they can only hear right now on this webinar?
So let me go real quick on this, and I'm gonna let Matthew wrap it up. I just was having this conversation recently with some students. Do not look in the U.S. News and World Report and throw a dart at the rankings. Because the reason why I say that is what you really want to do, if you're concerned with rankings, is to go to that particular profession's area in which they evaluate the quality of programs, as you will, and look at that. Because you may have institution X who is ranked number 3 in U.S. News and World Report, but you may be interested in the history of religion, and that institution may be ranked 75th in that particular discipline. So I would say if you're concerned with rankings, to really look at it based on the discipline and the subject matter.
I would also add to that, there are, I think, 2,000 graduate schools in the United States, and many more abroad. When we evaluate candidates for graduate education, and this is any graduate program out there, we want to not only find candidates who are qualified, but who will be a good fit. And that fit piece is very, very important here, because we want students to come in who will succeed, and we want you to succeed wherever it is you go. And so depending on your program needs or desires that you have, the experiences that you want to have, the courses and specializations that you may have, and then there's family dynamics, lifestyle region that you may be restricted to or whatnot for going into a graduate program. There are a lot of factors that go into a graduate program beyond, especially the U.S. World and News ranking. So definitely ask questions. When I do these presentations and I say, be sure to ask about this, be sure to ask about this, I occasionally get students who say, am I allowed to ask a question? You 100% are allowed to ask questions. And in fact, it shows that you're very interested and very dedicated and very committed to pursuing a graduate degree. And that looks very good for you. But more so, ask questions, get the answers that you need, and be open and honest about your concerns. Because, for example, if you come to a certain program and they, based on what you're sharing with them, they feel like this is not going to be a good fit for you because of the rigor of the program, or there may be certain requirements like teaching that you're not interested in, or research that you're not interested in, you want to focus on teaching, or what have you, they're going to likely recommend a different program that is going to be more your speed, more your style, where you can be successful. That's the goal that we all have for graduate education, is everyone to be successful. So ask those questions and be open to the process.
Matthew, I just want to add something. You said something that's very profound when you say ask questions. I want to tell the people on this webinar a secret to graduate education. Unlike undergrad, where you are given the right answers, the foundation and the philosophy of why graduate education was established from Germany to the United States is to ask questions. When you're in graduate school, that's what you're doing your work on. You have to ask a question, you have to do the research, you have to come up with the conclusions, recommendations, et cetera, et cetera. So that gets you into practice, as Matthew said. That is the foundation of graduate education, is asking questions. So ask.
Awesome. You guys, this has been so great. I think we have exhausted the questions from the chat. Well done. And I want to thank you both for joining us today, and all of the attendees who are able to log in today. We have recorded this. It will get posted on our website. If you'd like to share these resources, please feel free. You can go to belong.utah.edu. In the next, it'll be a week or so by the time we get it edited and closed captioned and up on the site. But feel free to visit that or reach out to us with any other questions that come up. Thank you all, and happy commencement.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Take
Michelle.
care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
All right.